Chosen one, you didn't change, you just became the person you were always meant to be. They liked the old you, the one who apologized for taking up space, who over-explained, who bent over backward just to keep the peace. But that version is no longer here. The version they knew and controlled is gone, and what remains is a quiet, undeniable force. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. This new attitude of yours, this refusal to shrink or self-betray, has sent shockwaves through your world. The tables have turned, and now they're left grappling with the reality that they can't control you anymore. You've stopped explaining, stopped chasing approval, and that silence? It speaks volumes. It's louder than any excuse you could have given. They're no longer confused by your boundaries. They're triggered by your strength. And this is just the beginning. You've stepped into your revolution, and the world will never see you the same way again. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand why they can't cope, you'll see why it's the best thing that's ever happened. Silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. For so long, you thought that if they could just understand your perspective, if you could explain it clearly enough, thoroughly enough, they would finally respect your boundaries. You believed that with the right words, they'd see your value and change the way they treated you. But no matter how many times you explained, no matter how patient you were, the situation didn't improve. It became clear that their misunderstanding wasn't accidental. They knew what they were doing all along. They weren't confused by your words. They were content with the old dynamic because it benefited them. And that's when it clicked. The problem was never your lack of clarity. The problem was that they were invested in keeping you where you were, serving them, meeting their needs, making their life easier. Every time you explained yourself, they used your words against you, twisting them to maintain their control. It wasn't respect they wanted. It was power. And the more you tried to clarify, the more power you handed them. Eventually, you realized that you couldn't reason with someone who wasn't interested in understanding. The turning point came when you stopped talking altogether. You made the decision to no longer explain your growth, your boundaries, or your worth. Silence wasn't just a retreat, it was a strategy. In that silence, you discovered a different kind of strength, one that didn't rely on their approval or acknowledgement. Your silence became the answer they weren't ready for. At first, they didn't know how to react. They thought you were retreating because you were weak, because you had nothing left to say. But what they didn't realize was that you had moved beyond the need to say anything at all. Your silence wasn't a void. It was a wall. It was a declaration that you wouldn't play their game anymore. And in that quiet, you found a sense of peace and power that words had never given you. Something remarkable started to happen. The room shifted. The questions they used to ask, the demands they used to make, fell away. Your silence wasn't an invitation for more manipulation. It was the end of the conversation. They couldn't provoke you because there was nothing to provoke. You had removed yourself from their cycle of control. And in doing so, you reclaimed something they could never take, your inner strength. As time passed, your silence spoke volumes. It became a force that exposed their intentions without you having to lift a finger. They could no longer claim confusion or ignorance. The more they tried to push, the clearer it became that you weren't ignoring them. You were choosing yourself. This wasn't a passive act. It was deliberate, a conscious decision to protect your energy, your peace, and your integrity. And they couldn't handle it. They thought your silence would be temporary, that eventually you'd break and try to explain yourself again. But you never did. You didn't need to. You had discovered that silence, when chosen with purpose, is louder than any words. It showed them that you no longer relied on their validation. It showed them that you were in control now, not them. In the end, it wasn't about punishing them or proving them wrong. It was about freeing yourself. Your silence became your sanctuary, your shield, and your strength. And in that silence, you found clarity, empowerment, and peace. You didn't stop talking because you had nothing to say. You stopped because you didn't need to say anything at all. They had lost their hold on you, and in the quiet, you became truly unstoppable. Comment, "I am free," if this resonates with you. And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community. A private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. Selflessness or self-destruction. You thought being selfless would bring peace. You were taught that if you gave enough, loved enough, forgave enough, eventually everything would fall into place. But no matter how much of yourself you poured out, it was never enough to satisfy them. Their gratitude was shallow, their praise conditional, and their loyalty non-existent. Over time, you realized that every act of so-called selflessness was eroding your spirit, taking you further from your truth. You were sacrificing pieces of yourself on the altar of their approval, and instead of feeling fulfilled, you felt hollow. They called it kindness, but it was really compliance. They praised you not because they valued your heart, but because they knew they could take advantage of it. To them, your selflessness wasn't a virtue, it was a resource they could exploit. They loved the version of you that didn't say no, the version that didn't stand up for itself. Every time you put them first, it affirmed their control. And for a while, you accepted it because you believed that's what it meant to be a good person. But deep down, a quiet voice whispered that something wasn't right. There came a turning point, a moment when that quiet voice inside grew louder than their demands. You realized that every yes to them was a no to yourself. And for the first time, you asked the hard questions. What was this so-called kindness costing you? Was it really kindness if it left you drained, diminished, and invisible? The answer was clear. True kindness doesn't destroy the giver. You began to see that what you had been calling selflessness was actually self-destruction. Breaking free wasn't easy. The moment you stopped sacrificing yourself, their narrative changed. Suddenly, you were no longer kind. Now you were selfish. The same people who once praised your endless giving accused you of abandoning them, of being cold, of caring only for yourself. But you weren't cold, you were reclaiming your warmth. You weren't selfish, you were finally allowing yourself to exist as a whole person. You set boundaries not because you stopped caring, but because you started valuing yourself. And in doing so, you discovered a new kind of kindness. One that began with being kind to your own soul. As the transformation took hold, you realized that their accusations were not about you changing for the worse. They were about you no longer being easy to control. They never wanted you to be kind. They wanted you to be quiet. They wanted you to be accommodating, docile, and easy to manipulate. But now that you're none of those things, their world is shaken. Their complaints aren't about your selfishness. They're about their own discomfort. You didn't lose yourself. They lost access to the version of you they could exploit. And what they'll never admit is this: you didn't abandon kindness. You discovered what true kindness looks like. It means protecting your energy, valuing your time, and prioritizing your well-being. It means standing firm in your truth, even when it makes others uncomfortable. It means refusing to set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. By choosing yourself, you've chosen a higher form of kindness. One that's rooted in self-respect and authenticity. This new path isn't about closing your heart. It's about expanding it in a healthier way. When you're no longer pouring all your energy into pleasing others, you can direct that love inward and let it radiate outward. You can give from a place of abundance, not depletion. You can offer support without losing yourself. This shift isn't about withholding, it's about realigning. It's about ensuring that every act of kindness comes from a place of strength rather than sacrifice. In stepping into your sovereignty, you've set a new standard for how you will be treated. You've shown that you are not a resource to be depleted, but a person to be respected. This isn't selfishness. This is salvation. You're not walking away from kindness. You're walking toward a version of yourself that's strong, grounded, and whole. And from that place, your kindness becomes a gift, not a burden, something you offer freely, not something they take without thanks. Watch them crumble when you step back. You may not have noticed it at first, but over time it became clear. You were the cornerstone of their lives. Your support, your energy, your presence were the silent forces holding everything together. They relied on you for encouragement, for stability, for a sense of direction, even if they never acknowledged it outright. And while you gave and gave, they grew comfortable, perhaps even complacent, taking for granted that you would always be there to catch them when they stumbled. But one day something shifted. You stepped back, not out of malice, but out of necessity. and it was only then that the truth revealed itself. As soon as you pulled away, their carefully balanced facade began to wobble. The confidence they had always projected started to falter. They who once seemed self-sufficient and assured now appeared uncertain, grasping for something solid to lean on. It was a stark contrast to how they once carried themselves. But the reality was that their stability was never truly theirs. It was borrowed from your strength, your love, your patience. And without you, their world began to crack. You watched as the illusion of their independence unraveled, as their reliance on you became painfully obvious. What they once called their strength was, in truth, the reflection of your support. Their sense of control was built on the foundation of your sacrifice. Every time you stepped in to make things right, to hold things together, you were silently teaching them to depend on you rather than find their own footing. And when you finally decided to step back, to let go of the role you had played for so long, the foundation you had built started to dissolve. The structures they thought were theirs turned out to be held together by your effort. And now, without you there to reinforce them, those structures are collapsing. In witnessing their crumble, you may feel a mix of emotions. There might be sadness for the time you spent pouring into relationships that were built on an unequal exchange. There might be relief in finally seeing the truth of who they are without the mask. But most importantly, there is clarity that you were never weak. You were never merely a supporting character in their story. You were the strength, the anchor, the foundation. And now that strength belongs to you. This is not about revenge. It's about revelation. The crumble isn't something you caused. It's something that was always waiting to happen. They just never prepared for the day you would step away. And now that day has come, they have no choice but to face their own reflection. They see now, in your absence, what they never wanted to admit. That without you, they have to find their own footing. They have to confront the parts of themselves they've avoided for so long. And that confrontation, while difficult, is the only path forward for them. Meanwhile, you're learning that stepping back was not just an act of self-preservation, it was an act of self-realization. By letting go, you gave yourself the space to see your true power. You were never the one holding them back. You were the one holding them up. And now, with that energy returned to you, you can channel it into your own growth, your own dreams, your own journey. The strength you used to pour into others is now available for you, and the potential it unlocks is limitless. As their facade crumbles, yours is being rebuilt, not as a facade, but as a solid, unshakable truth. You're standing taller, seeing more clearly, and feeling more empowered than ever before. Their crumble isn't your loss. It's your freedom. It's the proof that your worth was never tied to their approval, that your power was never tied to their validation. It was always within you, waiting for the moment you would take it back. So now, as you move forward, you do so without the weight of holding up what was never yours to carry. You move forward with the knowledge that your strength is enough, that your presence was always a gift, and that the crumble you witnessed wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of your rise. This is your time to reclaim your power, your energy, your life. What they do next is up to them. What you do now is all yours. No more nice trap. Kind is not equal to controlled. For years, you equated kindness with goodness, with doing what was right. You believed that being nice meant being accommodating, agreeable, and putting others before yourself. It was how you avoided conflict, how you felt secure, how you thought you earned love and respect. But deep down, it never truly felt right. Did it? You gave and gave only to feel drained, invisible, and taken for granted. And the worst part? You started to believe that this was just who you were meant to be, nice, agreeable, and quietly enduring. But kindness without boundaries isn't kindness at all. It's a mask, a facade you wear to keep the peace. And over time, it begins to wear you down. You've said yes to things you never wanted to do, stayed quiet when you should have spoken up, and apologized when you were the one who was wronged. You became the nice one not because it made you happy, but because it made everyone else comfortable. And the more you tried to be everything for everyone, the less you felt like yourself. The real you, the one who had dreams, desires, and a voice, was buried under the weight of their expectations. That nice mask wasn't protecting you, it was trapping you. And at some point, something inside you said enough. Enough of the pretending, the people-pleasing, the constant bending over backward. Enough of the guilt you felt for simply wanting to put yourself first. It was a moment of clarity, a realization that kindness isn't about abandoning yourself. Kindness, true kindness, starts with being kind to you. It's the ability to look in the mirror and say, I deserve love too. I deserve respect. I deserve to have a voice. And in that moment, you decided to step out of the nice trap. When you stopped saying yes to everything, people noticed. When you set boundaries, they were taken aback. And when you chose not to explain yourself, they didn't know how to respond. They had grown used to the old version of you, the version that apologized for having needs, that smoothed things over at their expense, that always made them comfortable. But that version of you no longer exists. And it's not that you've become cold. You've become clear. Clear about what you need, what you deserve, and what you will no longer tolerate. This isn't about being unkind. It's about being real. True kindness is about showing compassion because you want to, not because you have to. It's about being honest, even when it's uncomfortable. It's about knowing that you can care for others without losing yourself in the process. And when you began to embody this kind of kindness, the game changed. Suddenly, you weren't the one bending anymore. You weren't the one chasing their approval. You stood still, grounded, and they didn't know what to do. Some people saw your shift as selfish. They labeled you as uncaring or distant. But the truth is, they just missed the version of you that didn't have boundaries. They weren't upset because you became mean. They were upset because you stopped being easy to control. You started prioritizing your well-being, and that made them uncomfortable. But their discomfort is not your burden. Their reactions are not your responsibility. You are finally free to be yourself without guilt, without shame, and without apology. You've let go of the need to be seen as nice because nice was never the goal. The goal is authenticity, self-respect, and genuine connection. And now that you're living from that place of authenticity, you're attracting people who value the real you. You're finding relationships that are built on mutual respect, not one-sided effort. You're discovering that kindness isn't about self-sacrifice. It's about self-honor. And when you honor yourself, you open the door to a life that feels fulfilling, balanced, and true. This journey out of the nice trap isn't just about saying no more often. It's about saying yes to yourself. It's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your voice. It's about realizing that you don't have to explain your worth or defend your boundaries. You are allowed to exist, to thrive, and to be unapologetically you. And as you walk this path, you'll find that the more you honor your own needs, the more you're able to give from a place of abundance, rather than obligation. You've stepped out of the nice box they put you in. You've taken off the mask, set down the weight, and finally seen yourself for who you are: kind, strong, and free. This isn't the end of your journey. It's the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where you get to decide what kindness looks like, what relationships feel like, and what life can truly be. This is your time to live, to love, and to rise as your truest self. Unbothered, unapologetic, unmatched. It's a moment of power, clarity, and undeniable self-respect. You've reached a point where you understand that you don't need to seek approval or validation from anyone. The weight of their expectations no longer rests on your shoulders. For so long, you carried that burden, questioning yourself, bending to fit their standards, and apologizing for simply being who you are. But now the story has changed. You've changed. You've reclaimed your narrative, and with that, you've reclaimed your freedom. It wasn't easy. It never is. At first, you may have felt guilt creeping in. Guilt for stepping away from their chaos. Guilt for choosing yourself. Guilt for no longer explaining your every move. After all, they were so used to the old you. The one who always said yes, who always made excuses for their bad behavior, who always stayed quiet to keep the peace. But that guilt was just a remnant of a past you no longer identify with. It was a false alarm, a final attempt by their conditioning to keep you small. And once you recognized that, it lost its grip. You let it go, and with it, the fear of how they might react. That's when the real shift began. You stopped showing up in ways that drained you. You stopped entertaining conversations that went nowhere. You stopped shrinking so that they could feel bigger. In the silence of your no, In the stillness of your self-respect, you found your true voice. You became unbothered by their opinions, unapologetic about your decisions, and unmatched in your energy. This isn't arrogance. This is self-respect. This is sovereignty, and it's a power they cannot take from you. They may not understand it. In fact, they may try to pull you back into their game, questioning you, testing your boundaries, trying to make you feel as though you've done something wrong. But you know better now. You know that their discomfort is not your problem. Their inability to handle your growth is not your burden to carry. You're no longer playing their game, and that's why they can't touch you. They miss the old version of you, the one who was easy to manipulate. But that version is gone, and she's never coming back. You've stepped into a space of clarity where you no longer need to explain yourself. You don't owe them your energy. You don't owe them your time. You don't owe them an explanation for why you've changed. The old rules don't apply anymore because you're not the same person. They can't figure out how to manipulate someone who no longer craves their approval. They can't win a game you've stopped playing. And in that realization, they crumble while you rise. This is your era, not theirs. Yours. The version of you that bows, that apologizes, that begs for understanding no longer exists. You're unapologetic in your growth. You're unbothered by their reactions. You're unmatched in your energy. This is the person you were always meant to be. You're no longer reacting to their drama, but instead focusing on your own journey. And that's the most powerful thing you could have ever done. So walk forward in this new chapter with confidence. Keep your boundaries strong and your energy sacred. You've stepped into a level of self-respect that many never reach, and it shows. They see it. They feel it. They can't stop thinking about it. And while they're stuck trying to figure you out, you're moving forward, unbothered, unapologetic, and unmatched. You may feel as though you've spent years trapped in a cycle of doubt, second-guessing your every move, questioning if you were ever truly enough. There were moments when you looked for validation in others, hoping their approval would somehow fill the void inside you. You gave and gave, believing that your worth was tied to what you could offer, what you could fix, or how much you could sacrifice. And yet, the more you tried to please, the more invisible you seemed to become. That pain of feeling unseen, unappreciated, perhaps even taken for granted. It's a pain so many carry quietly, without ever saying it out loud. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And you're certainly not the only one who's had to learn the hard way that playing small never leads to peace. It's exhausting, isn't it? That constant pressure to be everything for everyone, to keep the peace at the cost of your own well-being, to make yourself smaller so that others feel more comfortable. You've tried to meet their expectations, tried to smooth over conflicts, tried to prove your worth by how much you could endure. But over time, that endurance became a heavy weight. It wasn't a badge of honor anymore. It was a burden. And even as you smiled through the pain, a part of you knew something had to change. There's only so long you can live as a lesser version of yourself before the inner voice, your true voice, begins to rise. That voice is the part of you that knows you were never meant to fit inside their box. You were meant to break free. This moment of transformation is not a coincidence. It was always meant to happen. Perhaps it's no accident that the verse from Isaiah 43 verse 19 comes to mind. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? It's as though a new path was being carved for you all along. But first, you had to release what no longer served you. You had to step away from old patterns, from relationships that drained you, from the need to explain yourself over and over again. The breaking point was not a punishment. It was preparation. You were being readied for a greater calling, one that required you to stand fully in your truth. And when you look back, you'll see that every struggle, every moment of doubt, was part of the foundation you're now standing on. As you step into this expanded version of yourself, you'll notice the signs of growth everywhere. Your energy feels lighter, your thoughts clearer, your heart more open. People who once drained you no longer have the same effect. Situations that once made you anxious seem to resolve themselves without your intervention. It's as though the universe is aligning everything around you to match this new vibration. Doors you never thought would open are now within reach. Relationships that felt strained are either shifting to a healthier balance or falling away entirely. Each day brings a new sense of possibility, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're exactly where you need to be. And this is only the beginning. What's happening now is not random. It's intentional. There are unseen forces working on your behalf, clearing the path ahead, nudging you toward the opportunities and connections that are meant for you. Your struggles were not a sign that you were failing. They were a sign that something greater was coming. Each tear, each sleepless night, each moment of feeling stuck was a step toward your elevation. When you start to see how perfectly orchestrated it all was, it becomes clear. You're not just moving forward, you're being guided. This alignment is not just a stroke of luck. It's divine timing. The universe has been waiting for you to reach this point, and now that you have, it's ready to meet you with everything you've been preparing for. It's natural to feel a mix of excitement and fear at this point. Change, even positive change, can be unsettling. As you grow into this new version of yourself, you might find yourself resisting, wondering if it's too much, too fast, too different. But remember, you're not letting go of who you are. You're stepping into the fullness of who you've always been. This is not about becoming someone else. It's about removing the layers that never belonged to you in the first place. This moment of self-realization is sacred. It's the point where you decide, once and for all, to embrace your power without apology, without hesitation. It's the moment you stop asking for permission to be yourself. From this point on, it's up to you to fully own your transformation. No more looking back, no more second-guessing. This is your time to rise, to lead, to show others what's possible when you choose yourself. Let go of the fear that you'll be judged or misunderstood. Let go of the doubt that tries to creep in and tell you you're not ready. You are ready. The signs are clear, the path is open, and the time is now. Trust that you're exactly where you need to be, and that every step forward will bring you closer to the life you've always known you were meant to live. You're not just walking a new path, you're forging it. So as you move forward, remember this: your expansion isn't just about you. It's about the light you bring to the world, the inspiration you give to those who are still searching for their own strength. You've shown what it means to transform pain into power, to turn doubt into faith, and to move from hesitation to confidence. And that light, that example, will touch more lives than you can imagine. The journey continues, but now you walk it with clarity, purpose, and unwavering faith in yourself. This is the expansion you've been waiting for, and it's only the beginning. Your expansion also signals a deeper connection to the universe's rhythm. As you step into this new phase, you'll notice how doors open effortlessly, how synchronicities align in your favor, and how challenges transform into opportunities. The energy you carry now is one of confidence and conviction, and that changes everything. Even the smallest actions you take are infused with meaning, as if every movement, every choice, carries the weight of your newfound purpose. And it's this purposeful energy that sets you apart. People will feel it, drawn not just to what you do, but to who you've become. Your path ahead won't just be one of personal growth. It will be a testament to the power of embracing the fullness of who you are. But expansion also comes with responsibility. You're now in a position to guide others, not through preaching, but through your presence. By walking your truth and owning your journey, you give others permission to do the same. Those who once doubted their own potential will see your progress and begin to question their own limitations. You'll find that your growth sparks growth in those around you. This isn't about telling people what to do. It's about showing them what's possible. Your story, your courage, your willingness to step forward. These are the things that will leave a lasting impact, creating ripples of inspiration far beyond what you can see today. This new chapter isn't about perfection. It's about authenticity. It's about showing up as yourself, not hiding behind past fears or pretending to be something you're not. By being real, you'll attract others who are also seeking genuine connection and truth. Your light, though bright, isn't blinding. It's warm, inviting, and reassuring. It tells others, if I can do this, so can you. In your authenticity, you'll find freedom. Freedom from judgment, freedom from doubt, and freedom to create a life that truly aligns with your values and dreams. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Like this video, and comment I am chosen to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. You were chosen for a reason. Now go and rise.